Hi to everybody, and I welcome you all to today's lecture, Recycling of Dead Animals and Slaughter Waste by Rendering Process, Part 2. In the Part 1, we have seen different methods of rendering, that is dry rendering and wet rendering. How the renderer work, we have seen. How the steam is generated from the boilers and how it goes into the renderer, the double-jacketed rendering machine, that is a dry rendering. In today's lecture, I will be talking about the different steps in dry rendering. So what are the materials we can do rendering? One is the slaughterhouse waste, that is the offals like kidney, the spleen, such offals, the rumen and reticulum. All this can be rendered. The trimmings that we get from the slaughterhouse, the bones, the deboned bones can be rendered. Even the whole carcasses, we can do the rendering. We can also do the rendering of the blood. It is always advisable to use the blood in the rendering plant, because if you leave the blood into the effluent treatment plant, it is going to increase the BOD, and the cost of running the effluent treatment plant is going to increase. The poultry processing plants, we can use the feathers for rendering to prepare the feather meal, or you can use the mixed poultry offals. That is nothing but the feathers along with the intestines, the offals, all that comes under the mixed poultry offals. So for easy explanation, in the coming slides, I have put as A, B, C, and D. Or rather, I have designated for mixed meat offals and bone as A, raw blood I have designated as B, and feathers C, and for mixed poultry offals D. Apart from this, even the hatchery waste, the dead chicks you can render, the egg waste you can render, fish waste you can render, even the droppings of the poultry farms that can be rendered, so it will be more sterilized. Let's see step by step what are the ways by which we can do the rendering. So if you take the big rendering units, very large big units, they have the collecting bins. So the whatever that materials they collect, maybe they collect the material from the various shops or the abattoirs, and they bring in the vehicle, and it will be unloaded in the collecting bins. So this collecting bins, in some places, it will be cool temperature will be maintained so that the spoilage, the rate of spoilage can be decreased. So it will be unloaded into this collecting bins. From this collecting bins, it goes to the next process, that is pre-breaking. So what is pre-breaker? The pre-breaker or the pre-crusher is nothing but the heavy duty equipments. So this equipment is used for breaking the large bones or the large carcasses into small pieces of, say, size of around 4 to 5 centimeter cube, or 2 in size centimeter cube in size. It will be broken down. Why it should be broken down? So once you break the large pieces into smaller ones, it is going to increase the surface area. So that will help in the easy penetration of the heat, and it will shortens the cooking time or the sterilization time. So by pre-breaking, help in better penetration of the heat and uniform rendering of the raw materials in a very short time. So we can shorten the rendering time. That is why we do pre-breaking. After pre-breaking, we can use the metal detectors to remove any metal that is present in the raw material, especially when you collect the raw materials from the butcher shops or the poultry processing shops, what happens is sometimes you can find there are knife pieces, or the knives will be there, small knives can be there, chances are there. Sometimes the needles will be there. So if it enter into the renderer or the cooker, there's a chance for the cooker to break, or tearing of the cooker can take place. There's a chance. So it is always better to remove the metals. For that, you can use the metal detectors if possible. You can use the metal detector. It is advisable to use the metal detector. So after the pre-breaking, we go with the next steps, that is charging. Charging is nothing but the process of putting the broken raw materials into the cooker. So we can do different methods. By different methods, we can do charging. One is by manual charging. That is what we do in the meat technology unit. Next is by the screw conveyor methods or the blow gun systems. Screw conveyor system means this conveyor, the screw conveyor will be moving forward. When it moves forward, along with that, it will be carrying the raw materials. The screw conveyor or the blow gun is used for transport and feed the crushed materials or the pre-broken materials to the cooker through charging doors meant for the purpose. If you are ready to invest the capital investment, is you are ready, then you can go with the screw conveyor. So the manual manpower can be reduced, or if you are not having much capital, then we can go with the manual charging. In meat technology unit, we are using the manual charging. So from the ground floor, the material will be crushed, and this is the screw conveyor. Through the screw conveyor or the blow gun, it will be put into this cooker or the charging door. The door will be open and it will be put. Okay, a charging door located at the upper side of the vessel is meant for loading the materials. So if you are using the manual method, means we'll have a hoist and we'll have the bucket. After breaking, the material will be collected in the bucket and it will be hoisted and it will be brought and it will be charged into this cooker. Okay, so I'll be showing the video of both manual methods as well as the screw methods. So one thing that we have to take care during the charging process is that during the charging, make sure the discharge door, which I explained in the last class, the discharge door should be closed before charging the dry melter, and start the agitator before charging the operation. We have to start the agitator also, okay, which we already discussed in the last lecture. And see that the turning of the agitator, I told that agitator can rotate both in the clockwise as well as anti-clockwise directions. So when you are charging, you see that the direction of the agitator is rotating in the clockwise direction. That is, when you face the charge door, it should rotate in the clockwise direction. So these are the precautions that we have to take care when you are doing the charging. One thing, the discharge door should be seen that the discharge door is closed properly. Okay, which you understand. I hope you understood what is discharge door, which I explained in the last class. Then see that the agitator is on before the charging, and see that it is rotating in the clockwise directions. So how much you can charge? That is, say around, if you take around 60 to 70% of the available space in the cooker can be charged. So normally, if you take 1,000 liters cooker, means if the meat come bone mean meat and the offals, means that you can charge around 500 to 600 kgs you can charge. If you take 1,500 liters capacity cooker, means you can charge around 750 to 900 kgs you can charge. If it is a 2,000 liters liters capacity, means you can charge around 1,000, 2,100, 2,200 or 2,250. So it depends upon. Normally, what I advise is that you can go up to 60 to 70% of the available space in the shell or in the cooker can be used for loading. If you take feathers means you cannot charge more because it will occupy more space. For example, if you take 1,500 liters, so that is the rendering machine we have, the capacity is 1500. In that, normally we put around, if you take only the feathers, we put around 600 to 640 kgs of feathers we'll be putting. After charging, we go for heating and the air releasing. So the steam will be injected in the double space. So slowly the heating will be taking place, and the non-condensable gases inside the cooker should be removed. So I just want to compare with that of our ordinary cooker that we use in our home. So here we'll be using what you call as a blow-off valve. In the cooker, similar to that is the weight that we use. Okay, in the home cooker, we use the weight that we used to put. So when we'll put the weight, normally once the steam comes, okay, around 80 to 100 degree when it attains, you can see the air is coming out, then the steam it comes out. Once the steam comes out means it shows that the cooker is completely filled with the steam or there is no air inside. So why we should remove the air completely? If the air is not removed completely or the non-condensable gas is not removed completely, it will affect the sterilization process. So see that the air is completely released. So once you start heating, the water inside the raw material will get converted into steam, and you can see after sometimes when the temperature of the inner cooker or the material will attain around 80 to 100 degrees centigrade, you can see that the steam is coming out. Once the steam start coming out, you close the blow off valve. It is similar to that of putting weight in the cooker in the home. Okay, we put the weight in the cooker. Once the steam start coming out, it indicates that the complete air is removed. Only it is filled with the steam and the raw materials. So normally in the type A, it takes around 10 to 70 minutes. That is the time we have seen in our plant. In the product B, it comes around 10 minutes, that is bled. If it is a feather, it takes around 10 to 20 minutes. And if it is a mixed poultry offals, it will takes around 10 to 20 minutes. And the temperature, we can see it comes around 80 to 100 degrees centigrade. So once it start indicating the temperature 80 to 100 degrees centigrade, you see that the steam is coming or not. Once the steam start coming out, slowly close the blow-off valve. So closing of the blow-off valve. So this is the blow-off valve. All this will be indicated. The temperature will be indicated. The pressure will be indicated. The temperature of the steam that we are injecting, that will also be indicated. Everything will be indicated here. So you have to examine this when you are running the rendering machine. So this is the blow-off valve, which I told is similar to that of the weight that we use in our home cooker. So once you close the blow-off valve, what happens is the steam is not going to escape inside the cooker. From the cooker, it is not going to escape. Once we close it out, what happens is the pressure start increasing. Once the pressure start increasing, the temperature start increasing. So that is it. The temperature will start increasing. The pressure will start increasing. So once the pressure and temperature is increasing, the cooking will be taking place. So after we attain a particular temperature, okay, so next stages we can see once it attains the sterilization temperature or hydrolyzing temperature. Okay, for example, in the case of mixed offals and bones, we have to do the pressure cooking up to 1.5 bars. So we know the atmospheric pressure is 0 bar. So we are from the 0 bar, the pressure will rise to 1.5 bar. For the blood also, we should cook to pressure of around 1.5 bars, and you have to keep for a particular time. Then only we can say it is sterilized. So we have to keep it for minimum. We have to keep it for optimum for 20 minutes, and in the case of blood, 20 minutes. In the case of feathers, the pressure is more is required. So we have to go to around 2.8 to 3 bars. Because if you want to hydrolyze the feathers, because the feather will contain the keratin protein, and if you want to hydrolyze this keratin, we have to subject to high pressure. So we will be subjecting to around 2.8 to 3 bar pressure. and we'll keep it for around 20 to 45 minutes. So if you keep it for around, our experience shows that around 40 minutes, if you keep, it will get hydrolyzed. And if you are going for mixed poultry waste, then the pressure should be around 2.3 to 2.6 bar, and the time that you keep is around 20 to 30 minutes. You always see that the pressure and temperature should be as near to the hydrolyzing temperature or sterilizing temperature. If you keep it at a higher pressure, what happens is or higher temperature, what happens is it leads to charging of these materials, and there will be a loss of nutrients. So you can see here if you to prevent the overcooking and charring, if you keep it for more time, the product will become blackens and it will lose the nutrient content, or the amino acids contents will be lost. Okay, so you always see that the pressure and temperature should be near to the sterilization or hydrolyzing temperature as practical. Okay, if the pressure rises above the sterilizing or the hydrolyzing pressure, then slowly open the blow off valves until the pressure is correct. That we have to do it, that you have to take care, otherwise your whole batch will get destroyed. Next, once the sterilization process is over, then we go for the next step, that is pressure reductions. So pressure reductions means, see why the pressure should be reduced. If you're not reducing the pressure, what will happen? I told already, it leads to the overcooking and charring. You can just imagine that we are cooking the rice. Okay, when you cook the rice for more time, what happens is it will become the porridge. Okay, again, if you cook it for more times, what happens is it will get charged and you get a brownish rice, which will not become edible. Same thing will happen here also. Okay, if you do overcooking, the charring will take place and it will not we cannot use it. So we have to monitor the pressure and the pressure, time, and the temperature should be properly monitored when you are attain the sterilization temperature. So pressure reduction after sterilization, the pressure has to be reduced to the atmospheric pressure. So when you do the pressure reductions, that is from 1.5 bars or 3 bars in the case of feathers, slowly you have to reduce to 0 bar. So how we'll reduce it? Immediately we should not reduce the pressure. Slowly we have to do it, because the pressure inside the cooker is very high compared to that of the atmospheric pressure. If you immediately release it, what happens is the content inside may blow off. Okay, it may come out. So I just want to compare with that pure home cooker. So how we'll release the pressure? Slowly we release the pressure. If we immediately take the weight, what happens is you can see all the material inside the cooker is coming out, because the pressure inside the cooker is more. Here also same way, slowly we have to reduce it. Out of our experience, I say it takes around 15 to 20 minutes or 25 minutes. Slowly you reduce the pressure. Okay, so from 1.5 bars or 3 bars, depending upon the material that we put in the cooker, the pressure should be reduced to 0 bars. Okay. After the pressure reductions, we go with the next process, that is called nothing but the drying process. So why we basically do the drying process? We see that the raw materials, the moisture is removed maximum. If moisture is there, the spoilage of that material will be faster, and the bacterial growth will be faster, and it also leads to the rancidity. Okay, so here the blow off valve are now open. So slowly we'll be opening the blow off valve, that is during the pressure reduction, and ultimately we'll be completely opening the blow off valve, and the drying process begins. During the drying process also, we will be sending the steam inside the jackets. Then only out of that heat, the moisture will be evaporated from the raw material there. The drying of the time for drying process is greatly depend upon the composition of the material, what type of material you use, the raw materials. Okay, so we have to standardize. In most of the cases, what I told in the 4 things, drying will take around 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes. Like, okay, that is out of my experience. I'm telling it takes around 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes. In the second half of the drying process, say for example, 1 hour means. This is called as a ball valve. So ball valve, this is called as a ball valve. We can slowly open the ball valve and take the samples. So with the help of a stick, you put the stick inside that one and take a sample, and you can examine whether drying has completed properly or not. Okay, if it is too sticky, the moisture is more. If it is too hard, the the drying, over drying has taken place. Okay, so normally it should not be too sticky or too hard when you are about to discharge it. Okay, and see that only you use the wooden pieces for taking the sample. You never use the metal, and always, as a precaution, always stand side of the things, because when you open, because the pressure is inside is more, sometimes the hot material may comes out to your face. Okay, so always stands on the side and slowly open the blow off valve and take the sample and see the consistency of the sample, and then you can go for the next step, that is nothing but the discharge. So discharging, so this is the discharging. Okay, here we can see the ball which is used for taking the sample during the processing. Then we do the discharge. Once when you find that drying is okay, now we have to go for the discharging. During the discharge, first close the steam valve. The steam valve means the steam that we are injecting into this jackets. Okay, between this jacket, that valve should be closed. Then stop the agitator. Okay, you have to stop before opening the discharge door. Stop the agitator and then you open the discharge doors. So this is the discharge doors. So through this discharge doors, the raw material, the digested material along with the fat, okay, the cracklings along with the fat will be discharged. So here once then restart the agitator. So when you restart it, see that the direction is changed. That is, from the clockwise we have seen till will we stop the agitator, it is in the clockwise direction. Now it should be in the anti-clockwise directions. So it will be, you can convert or you can put the anti-clockwise direction switch for the agitator, so it will be discharging. So it will be carrying the material from inside to this percolator tank. Okay, so it will be discharged here. So you can see here, close the steam valve, then open the agitator, then open the discharge door. So be very careful when you are doing these operations. Once you open the discharge door, then restart the agitator. This time it should be anti-clockwise directions. So all these things I'm telling out of my experience. So once it is discharged, it will go to the percolating tank. Okay, from once you discharge, it goes to the percolating tanks. The cooked material called cracklings is emptied into the percolator tanks. The percolator is a bin or the receptacles made of mild steel plate having a perforated bottom. So it will have a perforated bottom here. The free tallow from the cracklings percolates to the bottom of the percolator tank, from where it passes to the tallow slump by gravity. So it will be falling here. Then it will have a perforations. Through these perforations, the material, the tallows will be coming down, and it will come to the from here it will go to the some pit by the gravity force. From there it will be going to the fat settling. So how to separate the fat from the cracklings? So there are different methods. One is called as a centrifugal fat extractions. This is a very simple method, and we are also using this method only. So we have the perforated baskets here. We'll be collecting the raw materials from the percolating tanks to this baskets. Okay, then it will be put in the centrifuge, and it will be rotated very fast, say 600 or 700 to 1000 rpm we will be rotating. So once you rotate very fast, what happens is, through this perforated holes, the fats will be coming out, and the fats will be collected in the sump, and from the sump again it can be pumped into the settling tank, fat settling tanks. This is not more effective method, I can say, but it's the cheapest method, we can say. The capital investment is less compared to the other method which I am going to explain. So the fat content drops to about 8 to 10% after centrifuging. So these are called as cracklings, and the fats will be separated from the cracklings. So here you can see the cracklings. Once you centrifuge it, the fats will be separated, and you get only the cracklings here. So you can see here. So this is the collecting bins. The raw material is coming. After that, from the collecting bins, it is taken to the pre-breakers. So it is pre-breaking is done here. You can see the large meat pieces are broken into smaller ones. So the size reduction is taking place in the pre-breaker. After that, it will be charged into the cookers. So here you can see there are multiple cookers, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 cookers are there. So it will be charged. So it is charged into the cookers. You can see the cookers here. If you're using only a single cooker, so you can see it is put into the cooker. There will be also sensors which can test the levels, or which can sense that levels. So this is a manual way of charging. You can see this is a methods we use in the meat technology unit. It is charged here. Then it is through this discharge doors, through the charging doors, it is charged here. It is getting into these are the soft tissues that we use it. Normally you can use 60% soft tissues and 40% bones you can use. It's always better, 50-50 is better, but you can go up to 60-65%, you can use it. Then this is a discharge process. You can see the discharge door is open and it is getting into the percolating tanks. In the percolating tanks, the liquid parts, see this is a perforated things, and you can see these tallows are dropping, and this will be collected and it goes to the slump. It goes to the sump where the fats will be collected. So this is, you can see the agitator is rotating. Okay, it is rotating in the clockwise or anti-clockwise direction, whatever we do, that it will be rotating and it will be discharging or charging the materials depending upon how it rotates. So this is the agitator, you can see, which I already explained in the first lecture. So this is the centrifuge method I told you. We collect in the perforated baskets. It is loaded into this centrifuge, and this door will be closed and it will be switched on. And when it's switched on, you can see the fat is getting collected here. From there, the cracklings will go to the hammer mill, dryer, and then it will be hammer milling, and it goes for sacking. So we get the final product like this. Meat cum bone meal. This can be used as a pet food, fertilizers. We can make various dog kibbles, dog chews out of this meat cum bone meal. We can also use as a fish meal. We can make fish meal out of that. Poultry products also we can, poultry feeds also we can use. So settling tanks we can see here. So this is a fat settling tanks where the fat will settle. So the sediments will come to the bottom by settlement process. The next method is hydraulic fat extraction methods. This is a little costlier than compared to that of centrifuge methods, but the fat percentage we get in the final product is less. We always see that the fat should be very less, because if fat is more, it can lead to the rancidity. So here the pressure is, hydraulic pressure is used, and we can see around 280 kg per centimeter square. So high pressure we are pressing it out, so the fats will be removed from that. The fat and moisture is expelled out. This is another method that's called as hydraulic fat extraction method we can use. And this is a fat expeller or screw press methods. Okay, the screw press is normally provided with an arrangement of automatically feed the cracklings. So you can automatically feed the cracklings inside this one. And this will be, as crackling move through the screw of the expeller, these are subject to high pressure and grinding actions, whereby the moisture and fats are expelled out. Okay, here another common methods they'll be using in the commercial rendering plants. Now they're going with this screw press methods. So approximately the fat can be reduced to 6 to 8% by this method, screw press methods. So it all depends upon the capital investment that you can do. This is a solvent extraction method. This is the most efficient method, but it is a very expensive method where the fat can be reduced to around 0.5%. Okay, so it is a very excellent method we can say, but it's very costly methods. So normally the people don't go for the solvent extraction methods. So the main issues that we come across in this product is that the rancidity. That is, so how we can reduce the rancidity is that, because once the rancidity is that, it the fat soluble vitamins will be lost, ADEK will be lost, the palatability of that product will be lost. And in meat, in the meal, for example, if you use pet foods and other thing, it can lead to a digestive disorder also. So what we can do is we can use the natural antioxidants or the artificial antioxidants like BHA or BST. What I recommend is that around 100 grams per ton of fat. Okay, so approximately you can add around 80 to 100 grams per ton of fat. You can add this BHA or BST, or you can try with certain natural antioxidants like paprika and other things. So this is the crackling cooling thing. Okay, to cool down the hot. So once you discharge it, the temperature of that will be around 80 to 100, 110 degrees centigrade. So it should be cooled before we go for hammer milling. So to cool down the hot product directly from the cooler section or press section, what we are using is we have a platform. On that platform, we will put overnight and cool it. But if you want to cool it very fast and then we want to go for, then you can use this meal cooler. Okay, the product is cooled by a counter current airflow which is drawn through the cooling bin. After that, we go for the grinder or the hammer mill. This is just like our feed mills. The same principle is, these are the hammers. Okay, this will be just moving and breaking the cracklings into smaller powder forms. Okay, after the extraction of the fat, the cracklings are ground to fine meals. Two types of grinders like a hammer mill or the cage mill are used for grinding of the cracklings. The function is, this hammer mill is to reduce the particle size of small of the cooled down meals. Okay, so we will be making in the powder form, and this will go for sacking. Okay, and we'll be using some sleeves also here so that the large bones and other things will be removed when it passes through the sleeves. So sacking units consist of a cyclone. We have the cyclone here connected to the grinding mill through the pipe. So from the air, it will be, from the air it will come. We have the cyclone shears. Okay, and as the cyclone sucks the meal, it simultaneously fall into the sack. So it will be falling into the sacks. Okay, and the sack will be then tied, or it will be sealed using the twine threads. Okay. And the problem that we normally come across is the bad odor that comes out of this rendering process. Is that so we have to remove that bad odors. So we can go with the deodorizing system. So there are different methods we can use this. So normally we get two types of gases. One is called as a condensable gases and the non-condensable gases. Okay, the condensable gases will condense it and it will go to the effluent treatment plant, or it can be chlorinated and it can be sent to the soak pits. Okay, the non-condensable gas, it can be sent through the chimney, or now the latest technology that we use is the scrubber methods or the biofilter reactors will be using it. The most effective system to control the obnoxious odor from the non-condensable gas. The vapor passes. So this is the deodorizing system or the scrubber system. The vapor that comes out will be sent through this scrubber by the spray of water in a jet condenser. The scrubbing are run out into the drainage. Then it will be collected, so we can reduce the bad odors that is coming out. And the latest technology that they're using is the biofilters reactors. So the gases coming out will be sent to this biofilters reactors, and the clean air will be exhausted. So this is a fat sterilizers. Again, if you want to sterilize the fat, you can use this fat sterilizer, where the process operates at a temperature of more than 133 degrees centigrade for at least 20 minutes at absolute pressure of 3 bars. That can also be done, fat sterilization. So here complete process, what is happening here. Okay, so you can just see the raw materials coming. It goes into the cooker, then percolated tanks. The fat will be separated, and the further fat that is present in the cracklings will be centrifuged, or hydraulic press will be using, or screw press will be using it. Then it goes for the hammer mill. So step by step, I want to conclude here. Okay, first we'll go for the collection of the raw material from the shops or the abattoir or the slaughterhouses. Then it is brought to the collecting bins. It is collected in the bins, and it will be sorted. If there is any metal and other things are there, it will be separated. Then we can store in the chill rooms if you want to keep it for more time. Then it is put it into the cooker. Okay, cooking and hydrolyzing will be taking place. Then we go over the sterilizations. So normally we do at 136 degrees centigrade. Okay, and see that the pressure is minimum 1.37 bars. That is the recommended pressure minimum. So normally we go a little higher pressure, that is 1.5 bars. Or we, for hydrolyzing the chicken means chicken feathers means we go up to 2.8 to 3 bars. Then moisture reductions, that is pressure reductions will be taking place. Then the fat will be separated. It goes to the fat balance tank. Then we can use the screw pressing, or we can use the centrifuge to remove the fat from the things. The fat will be stored in the storage tanks. And this fat can be used for various purposes, like making the soap, biodiesels, wax statues, then steel rolling mills. They can use even for making shoe polish. They can use this fat. Then the solid, that the crackling materials after drying, it's go to the milling plants. Then it will be sacked, and the sieving or the tying will be done, and it goes as a meal. Bled. If you are using the raw material as a bled, it can be going as a bled meal. If you are using meat and the bone meals, then it can meat come bone meal. You can prepare out of that. Or if you are using the fish as a raw material, fish waste as a raw material, you can use that. The product that we get is the fish meal. So you can see here, or if you are using the poultry offals and other things, you can get the poultry offals. Shortenings used for pasturings also can be made out of rendering process. So thank you very much. If you have any doubt, you can just contact me in this number, or you can put the WhatsApp message also. I will reply whenever I get time. Find it is informative, share with others, share with the students, so the students will also get benefited. Thank you very much.